presentation is recorded so that it will be available later on online, as will the slide deck. Please put your questions in the chat. They will be held till the end of the presentation, in which case we'll ask them. And I'd like to introduce Director of Mental Health and Wellness, Dr. Meredith Yuhas.
Thank you, Alexa. Thank you all for joining me today. I'm very excited to be here and provide an update on how we've progressed with further developing mental health and wellness services on the campuses. And so we're going to go and start right off the bat. I think one of the things that I don't think I need to say, but we'll continue to discuss is, how we've seen the increase in need. We've been seeing an increase in need even prior to the pandemic, and I think this is noteworthy. But I know that we've all experienced a number of significant changes in our lives, and the students have experienced in their lives during the pandemic, now post-pandemic, and we can also for ourselves experience that through the merger, all the changes that are constantly taking place. So we've definitely looked at an increase in mental health needs, and also an increase as a result in utilization of services. And throughout most schools across the U.S., the utilization has really outpaced, the need has really outpaced the staffing available. And so folks have really worked on creative ways and multifaceted ways to really respond to students' needs. So here's just a few statistics to confirm what we already know, more specific in regards to students, is after many years of suicide rates decreasing, we did see a small increase in 2020 to 21. And I think that is something that we carefully monitor in the individual state and across the states, particularly in our student population age group, which we can vary to traditional aged, adult learners, other age. So this is and currently is the second leading cause of death for college students. The other information that again confirms what we were talking about is the most recent Healthy Minds survey data. 60% of college students met the criteria for at least one mental health challenge. That's significant. More than 50% are talking about feeling that their mental health has decreased and has impacted their ability to be successful. And like I said, this has been occurring for a long time, even prior to the pandemic, but we definitely saw a significant jump during and post-pandemic. And the data is still coming in. I think that's what we're all, carefully following. Data is usually about a year or so behind. And so we are all carefully following more longer term effects of the pandemic. And also as certain campuses come back to completely in person, we're just really monitoring all the different needs. Finally, below, you can look at the National College Health Assessment that does also a large scale assessment, just like Healthy Minds. 30% of students said that their anxiety negatively affected their academic performance. And that just over 1 in 5 students reported having been diagnosed with depression. So I think that's one of the things that we've all talked about is historically depression used to be the most significant mental health concern, but about 10 or so years ago, anxiety took over. And so when we've seen the increase in stress get to levels where they've moved into more of an anxiety and how that impacts us. I think we've all seen students who are very anxious, particularly socially anxious, and returning to the in-person environment. So I think we're all agreed that there's a significant and profound need for services and to look at what our individual student needs are and how to respond. To move forward, I think, like I said, this is really an update of what I have been up to and what we've all been up to the last 6 months, and sort of what we're working on currently and moving forward. Here are some items that I put out. I think so I started right at the end of August. So it's not really, actually next week would be my 6-month marker. And so really it was critical to come in and take some time to really take a look at what was existing. And as we all know, every campus is unique. in its location, its population, its resources. So it was really important to have a lot of conversations with staff and students, do campus visits to really get an understanding of what these various needs would be, and to start sort of looking at, what program do we want to sort of work towards developing. And so that was a huge part of the initial component, and listening to what those needs are. And I think one of the things from the beginning is, as we continue on with becoming one college, is really looking at making services more equitable across the campuses. I think because some schools have more resources than others, what we really want to do is look at what resources can be having the same resources on many campuses, across all the campuses for certain students. And so that was been an important piece of sort of what I've been thinking about as I've been doing assessment. So other things that we've been doing since we came on is working with the existing counselors on campuses. So about half the campuses have counselors, half don't. So it's really important that I've been working very closely. We actually, when we meet, we call ourselves the Counselor Collaborative, and we've been meeting pretty much since the beginning on an almost weekly basis. And we've been really looking at them talking about their experiences historically and what they see also as a vision. So it's been a very collaborative effort moving forward. We've developed a handbook. We're currently standing up an electronic record system that will be shared for documentation. And as we've progressed, I started, in the next slide, I'll show this, is sort of in the beginning, by end of October, November, I started working out sort of a vision and a plan with some very loose timelines to continue to sort of see what resources were available. Moving forward, we, as a group, we're taking a close look at what us as mental health and wellness want to look like. What is our mission, our vision, values, goals? Working on a draft of a strategic plan, and we're moving forward with getting some feedback on that. Continuing forward down the list, every campus is becoming a JED campus. One of the campuses already, so kudos to, I believe it's Housatonic, who's already became a JED campus, and the rest of the campuses are working towards it. And it's a 4-year commitment, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in the future. And some of our Healthy Minds data that we've collected on our specific CT State students, and the work groups that are now forming to implement the mental health and wellness strategic plan and the JED strategic plan with some of our goals moving forward. As I noted, this was, and I think this one is most recently dated November 3rd. But by 8 weeks in, it was sort of taking a look at what the vision is, where we're moving forward with mental health and wellness. And if we kind of take a look, we're moving towards a model of more what we call a clinical model. We had more of a counseling model where counselors provided sort of an array of different services. And we're really moving towards having a dedicated role and more of a clinical role for a counselor. So each counselor on campus will be a licensed either professional counselor or social worker, and that we'll be able to provide that emergency support and in-person therapy that will be consistent across all the campuses. One of the things that I'm mentioning here, and again, there'll be another slide on, is sort of understanding that the model will always include a number of adjunct services. Again, we can't meet the demands. And so something like what we currently have, a timely care adjunct service, really is an integral part of our service delivery model. And, moving forward, we're going to work on, the expanding services that they have and how we can better utilize and increase our utilization of those services for students. If we look at structure, again, it's been incredibly collaborative and more decentralized with schools. We've been working very closely with campuses in regards to their behavioral intervention teams and how to respond to students in distress. One of my missions that we're still working on since I came on board was that everybody knows at any point in time what to do with a student in front of them. So really helping each campus develop that distress crises plan and resources and what steps to take at any point during the day or at night. And how to respond to that student in front of you. Moving forward, some campuses, like I said, have already started this, and some campuses will be doing more of this with a point person on campus. Is a lot of our wellness. So a critical part of mental health isn't just intervention and focusing all of our resources on intervention. It really needs to be prevention. And there's a lot of work that could be done in many various areas of skill building, life skills, resiliency. Having that wellness outreach and programming is a real important component of mental health and wellness model. I'm very happy to announce, and most folks know and we had a press release last week, it was very exciting, is that quicker than expected, we have moved to be able to put and have one mental health counselor on every campus. So the campuses that do not currently have a full-time committed mental health counselor will have one. So in the next week, we'll be posting 7 openings on various campuses. So if you know somebody, please refer them who is passionate about working with students. And some campuses, that's not just only one. Some of the larger campuses, right? So that's a minimum of one. Certain larger campuses have 2, and we'll continue to have 2 counselors as we progress. So that is really a huge commitment of CT State in really providing that consistent and equitable mental health services across the campuses. Is that, staffing, as we all know, is, a really significant expense, but this is something that is absolutely, as we saw in the 100-day report and other priorities, that President Maduko and Connecticut, really are seeing mental health as a priority and looking to support the steps we need to take. Sort of in the future, some campuses have, again, some degree of some of this program development, but others will continue to develop at their own pace. We're really looking at a peer advocate or peer wellness program. Really all the research kind of coming in and is really looking at that peer connection and how effective and helpful it is in mental health delivery services, and really reducing stigma, increasing help seeking. So really looking at those peer connections. And I think more importantly, I think what we've been seeing is really folks have such a strong need post-pandemic of that sense of belonging and sense of community, and how do we continue to look at building that. And then finally, looking at, we have a lot of great schools in the system and in our area, looking at develop a graduate training program on each campus where we could have some graduate trainees assist with different levels of treatment or other support services. So every school is at a different stage. Every school is progressing at its own pace. But this was sort of the original vision. And like I said, we're very happy that many of those goals are being accomplished as we speak, and as we're moving forward to get all those counselors in place by July 1st. To continue, I talked a little bit about JED, so this is a little bit more, but if folks aren't aware, and they can Google it, JED is a wonderful program that really focuses on assisting campus communities to build their mental health, substance abuse, suicide prevention systems on campus. And so we, as a CSCU system-wide initiative, so including the 4 years, engaged in this process. It's a 4-year process, and it really helps us assess 2 of the big components is assessed what we need on each campus, what are the different services and programs we need on campus, but in addition, it assesses, more importantly, our unique student needs. So we did administer the first round of the Healthy Minds Network survey. We're just getting the survey back from the cumulative data of the 11 campuses, and really, taking a deep dive into that and seeing and confirming, I think, like I said, what we all know. But one of the, significant statistics I put down here is, and again, we have to digest this, 68% of students say that they needed mental health support in the past year. That is significant. And we need to look at, how do we meet those needs and the varying needs. of what that may be. And it will be very different for each student. What is something that they might be looking for, right? They might be looking for in person, they might be looking for virtual, they might be looking for other supports specific to their community. So I've kind of mapped out here is campuses did a self-assessment. We had the survey. Almost all of them, I think, now have completed their campus visits by the actual JED um, advisors. Their strategic plans are coming in for each campus, and what we're doing as a group, and we met about a week or so ago. So all the campuses, all the JED leads are coming together, and we're going to work on the strategic goals as CT State, as most of them will be across the system, certain policies and practices. And so we have a number of work groups who just started up to start to look at the number of recommendations given from JED. And as I anticipated as my own assessment when I came on, they're completely in alignment with what I was assessing the needs are, minus the specific data from the Healthy Minds Network, which now has really helped, is going to help us begin to guide what we're doing. I kind of mentioned this before, but like I said, increasing staff is a really strong sign of really a commitment to mental health on campus, and really having that point person to really be able to go to and consult with and provide the programming on every campus. And I know it's been a challenge for many campuses as the mental health needs have increased in the classroom and others to not have a full-time counselor. Of course, I skipped the first one, but of course, CT State envisioned this as a priority a year ago, and more than a year ago, and began with hiring my position, and like I said, now moving forward with hiring 7 additional new counselors. And like I said, the counselors are going to really be that point person and to help coordinate those efforts and wellness programming, and eventually, like I said, move to collaborating and to help stand up the peer education program and a graduate training program on each campus. We talked a little bit about timely care. This is something that I actually do wish to spend just a few minutes on. I know some folks didn't know, right? This was a service that we was absolutely needed during the pandemic when most folks went virtual. But I really want to talk about the need for this service, and like I said, how it really is something that I think most folks do not know enough about. And it's not just sort of medical and mental health care 24/7, although that's extremely important. It's many other services that they provide, I think folks don't know about. And I think one of the other things that, like I said, because of their availability, if we take a look, some of the information that we get in from Timely, we take a look, but 47% of those students who actually access Timely Care really are between the hours of 5 p.m. and 9 a.m. when we wouldn't even have a mental health counselor available on campus. And so that's significant. So in trying to meet all the different needs of the students, right, some will be on, in person on campus, some might need it after hours. And so I think, right, looking at the overall different and various needs of students, that providing an adjunct service is going to be really important to really meet those needs. One of the greatest utilized services is something called Talk Now, which is really on demand. In a sense, it can be considered a crisis, and it is the largest area that's used by our students for them. And so I think that's really important, that right at any given moment, if they need to talk to someone, they most certainly can. One of the things that I encourage folks to do is that make sure everybody just registers for it and just keeps it on their phone, whether they ever use it or not. And I think one of the things that we're finding is, right, then that way, if there is ever a moment, you can just log in on your phone and meet with someone, not have to sort of spend 5 or 10 minutes if you're feeling distressed, needing to set up your registration. So we encourage everybody to set up that registration, announce it in class, talk to students like, oh, yeah, if you haven't set it up, scan and set it up. Take that 2 minutes now, so that if there ever is a moment where you feel like you need it, it's going to be right there for you. I think other things that, right, they're constantly increasing their services, they're listening to campuses. So in addition to, right, providing immediate and scheduled medical care, immediate counseling and scheduled counseling sessions, they're coming out with something called self-care journeys. And there's some really great plans for folks struggling with certain challenges in a sort of a weekly format. They do health coaching, and health coaching, you can see here, they have a number of really important other services: nutrition, meal planning, right? Talking about weight management, sleep habits, resiliency. So they have in-person health coaching, which are extremely important. And what I actually didn't list here, let me see, is what's also really important. I talked about this before, is they have a peer component that has really taken off, where peers can talk to peers. It is monitored to a certain extent, right, with language and response, but the number of posts has been incredible, and the support that students have been seeking from each other. As we all know, right, that social media, or right, that is their greatest source of information and potentially support. And so Timely Care has a whole peer support aspect of Timely Care. So they've been growing in their services provided. So I think it's important when we talk to students about the service that it's not just you know, some you know, mental health and medical, but they have all these other components to it. They have, you know, yoga and other services. As we're moving forward, as we're talking about resources, so as we move to One College, right, we're going to be standing up our own webpage. And so the mental health and wellness sort of initial page will be resources that will be available to all students, regardless of their specific home campus. And some of the things that we've been working on, like I said, some campuses have had and some don't, is that one of the best prevention and stigma reducing efforts is providing an opportunity for students to be able to do a mental health screening without initially having to, you know, come in, and helping them sort of decide what resources. So we have partnered with Mindwise, and there'll be a link on the page. And then once they enter the link, they'll be able to click home campus, so we can keep the data separate. It is completely anonymous, but we will have mental health screenings for a large variety of mental health challenges that students can take that screening, that very first step, you know, to maybe confirm, or, you know, some of the things that they've been feeling or experiencing. One of the other partnerships that we are working on moving towards is it's called Thriving Campus, which really helps with really connecting students with off-campus referrals more directly. Students will have access to a certain level of being able to search very specifically on a number of elements of looking for a particular provider that they're looking for. And one of the things that the mental health and wellness counselors will be able to do is use the service to directly connect students, including like directly make them an appointment with someone off campus through this service. And so as you're seeing, we're trying to build a program to meet all different needs of students and get them connected with those specific services that they need. And it's likely going to be a number of services, right, to support them in different ways that, you know, is unique to them or that they prefer. And so we've also been working on more of a comprehensive list of resources. And so particularly if, right, with cross enrollment, or, you know, if you have a student attending your school but lives maybe closer to another school, you know, how do we get resources in their specific area? And so we're working on more of a comprehensive list for each school of campus, local, state resources. And of course, if people don't know yet, but right about a year ago, well, almost a year ago, just like a 911, the US and Connecticut has joined, is they've come out with a new number called 988, and it's just like 911, but for mental health. And so this is something that we've been really trying to get out there, that 988, at any point in time, anybody who is looking for support or someone who's helping someone that needs to get support can call 988 and talk to anybody at any point in time, and can also help you take it to that next step, where maybe a mobile crisis unit might need to come on. So what they need. So 988 is really also an important resource to be aware of, in addition to Timely and, as I have listed below, what we call our 211 connection. So 211 is through United Way, and they also provide a comprehensive list and search ability to help us look and connect students with a lot of basic needs and other resources that they may need. We've been providing 211 trainings and meeting with 211 to provide feedback about some of their services and response rates. They also have been assisting with some transportation with students. So it's really important, right, to be aware of all the resources. In addition to, right, looking at meeting the needs of the students, right, other ways we're looking at, right, providing faculty and staff training. There's been a number of mental health first aid trainings available on campuses, and we're going to continue to provide those on a regular basis. 5 so far of the mental health and wellness counselors, including myself, have become train the trainers. So we can regularly provide, like clockwork, each semester, that opportunity for faculty and staff to get trained and to maintain their training. We've also been doing a number of QPR trainings and other trainings unique to campuses. So if, again, that is an area folks need to feel more comfortable and how to have conversations, it's really important to get that training. As I talked a little bit about before, is my need and my interest in really, like I said, working with how each of the campuses are also responding to students in distress. And part of that is, right, some campuses are still standing up, but we're looking at the how to train faculty and staff on the Tell Somebody report, the difference between a Tell Somebody report, the difference between an academic alert, and the difference between what will be coming soon is providing either a Title IX or a DEI report. And so some different areas that we're going to move into to be able to have everybody really provide more information about students and really communicate student concerns and needs, and how the teams then can really respond best to those needs of the students in a timely manner. And other information that we are working on putting on resource pages. A lot of feedback has sort of been given about providing information for family and friends on our webpage. Is that, when you're working with someone who, may be in distress or needs support services, a lot of times it's the family member or friend or partner who will go on and look at what the school's resources are. And so a lot of times this is an important area, again, trying to look at all the different elements of responding to students and supporting students and, at school, at home. And so really making sure there's more resources for families and other folks who are concerned about their student, and so that they can be able to kind of go to this, right, to our webpage and look at other information that was specific to a campus, or even just overall, and saying, okay, here's those resources for my student, and how do I help them sort of connect to those resources. I think we talked a little bit about this before I introduced it, and here's another, I think, really kind of important statistic that came. This is specifically CT State students, that 50%, half, feel disconnected from campus life. I don't think this is any surprise, right? This isn't necessarily something that we're doing wrong. What it is, right, post-pandemic, everybody has felt disconnected from other students, other people. And as a result, I think from being disconnected and being in our homes for so long, right, there's a lot of that social anxiety that we all have, and sort of re-engaging and being back and connecting with people and taking those first steps and doing so. And sometimes, our technology gets in the way, and, what is really important is really helping to further develop that in-person connections and that engagement back into campus life and in our classrooms. So sort of really kind of looking at different ways to engage everybody to reconnect. And I think it is so important, not just because of post-pandemic, but because what we're all going through with becoming one school. Right there is a lot of different feelings as we're all going through these significant changes, and how it is important, to start moving and start really developing our CT state community, and how do we, see all the advantages and help each other out across campuses, to really support each other in achieving our goals. I talked a little bit about the peer communities, and I can talk a little bit about that also is in many different schools, there's a variety of peer communities. And so they can be, right, not just clubs and orgs, but a peer advocate. So there are students who are most certainly interested in the helping fields, or because of their own experiences, really have a lot to share in being able to support other students. And so these peer positions are an incredible leadership opportunity and growth opportunity for students, but also in assisting other students with, like I said, reducing stigma, seeking support, and that, again, to start building some of that sense of belonging and sense of community on campuses. And the research, like I said, really shows how peers, and particularly in regards to mental health, how much influence and support peers can give each other. And so I think building those in different ways are extremely helpful in getting students to reconnect. I think we've all sort of taken a look at, post-pandemic, how a lot of the clubs and orgs sort of fell apart, which makes sense. And how do we, again, continue to rebuild those and in other ways, other groups. Some campuses have other different mental health groups on campus, like NAMI and other organizations. So I think building, looking at that, ways to engage students really is a mental health and wellness preventative strategy, that once people feel supported and have folks to go to, right, it really contributes to their mental wellness and being able to, right, feel supported and connected to those services. And finally, as I mentioned briefly before, really, like I said, partnering with many of our other schools. There is a significant need right now for mental health practitioners, and oftentimes the schools, right, and again, post-pandemic, this really changed, is that they're really looking, they're looking for training sites, and so this is a workforce, kind of development opportunity, is to really help the graduate programs get training sites, where we can develop and have students really provide additional supports and services, and to help continue to grow and train students into professionals, and to go out there and into our Connecticut state and to provide more services to their communities or even in our schools. So that, I feel, is another component. And as you can see, mental health and wellness, there is a number of components to the program development, looking at all different ways to support students and progress. And like I said, I think most importantly, it's to begin with having, that point person on every campus to be able to then continue to develop these additional services for that. I was able to go through my slides in a very quick format. I know that Alexa has been potentially connecting with some questions. Let me see. Are you there, Alexa?
I am, and there haven't been any questions, so I
Oh,
must have thought you
okay.
did a very thorough job. So if
Uh,
anybody else would like to add anything into the chat box right now, we can address it. Otherwise, this presentation will be available online at ctstate.edu/webinars, and the slide deck will also be there. So we'll give it one more minute, and then I think we're all set, Meredith. And thank you so much for coming in and sharing with us.
Absolutely. And folks can most certainly email me or, look for opportunities moving forward to get involved on your own campus. We're looking for everybody's support. And like I said, also any other feedback, or I always any other suggestions or input is always helpful. And so I'm very open to, receiving that information as we continue to progress and stand up our services.
All right. Well, it looks like we just got some words of appreciation for you putting on such a lovely show and or informative webinar. And I think we're all set. So thank you very much. Like I said again, this webinar will be posted on ctstate.edu/webinars, and we'll also have the slide deck up there. So
Thank you.
thank you. Have a good day.